Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked,
and sometimes what didn't,
you will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
and inspire you to do even greater things. Hi, today we are speaking with Karthikeyan Swaminathan, Vice President and General Manager of Tact.ai, where he speaks about his humble beginnings that started with product customization that inspired him to work for purpose-driven product firms. He also talks about hits and misses in the developer tools and open source ecosystem. Karthi is a self-taught product leader. He's amazed at the rich product and XT talent in today's Indian ecosystem. Makes all of us look forward to Make in India products with all the ingredients that makes companies successful. Listen on for more. Hello, Karthi. Good morning. Thank you for appearing in the Software People Stories podcast today.
Thank you, Gayatri, for having me on your show. Thank you very much.
I want to get you started that I'm very excited to hear your journey and your challenges. And some of the things that our podcast listeners love is to keeping it real. What has been things that has not worked, as well as some of the decisions that you have taken through your technology journey. So you have a splendid journey. So where did it all get started, Karthik?
Yeah, I think I would rather say that it probably went back. My interest in computers, I think, went back to college quite a bit back. And I think that's when, it kind of started. I was trying to do a project on expert systems, to predict, hard conditions and things like that. I was collaborating with a bunch of doctors in a medical college and with my buddies at college to actually come up with our project for the final year. So that's, I think, where my interest started. And then, fortunately, it was also earlier days, on the PCs. So I was able to kind of keep that going. And then, I was actually working in a different industry, but actually taking care of their needs, in terms of bringing in computers, bringing in products that actually helps the internal aspects of that company or the industry to begin with.
Okay.
And then, I started working with product companies, primarily in interacting with customers and customizing some of those products for customer needs. So I think from both building a product that customer love and you get to know a lot more things about like how they are product the customer thinks a product can be leveraged and used. Maybe that's not the use case that you probably thought of when you initially wrote the product or designed the product. And then I had an opportunity to come back and lead or set up teams for product companies in India, primarily with CollabNet, and that was a great journey in terms of their open source association, the company behind Subversion. So there's a lot of thing about open source, how to not just be a consumer of open source, but also how do you contribute, and some of just the life cycle part of like how do you develop product, how the open source community works, learn from it and try to do that. And then a bunch of years with Athena. Now I work for a company called Tact. In the last 20 years, if I just kind of want to talk about between CollabNet, Athena, and now with Tact. One thing is it's actually all of these companies are clear purpose-driven companies, and I think that is something that I look for. And then they were trying to solve some very specific problem and leverage technology that available at that point in time to leverage, and or maybe sometimes even cutting edge. With what we are doing, Tact is something that front. So we had a clear focus around that. So that's been my journey, and I'm quite enjoying it.
All right. I am hearing so many things that are very common with what I did. For example, open source is very close to my mind, where I had contributed to some of the open stacks around medical records, and it's very heartening to see such open source movements coming So it's a very beautiful moment, and to be part of it and to grow with it, it's a very nice, empowering thing. Can you talk more about CollabNet and version 1? Because I use version 1 in the way they bring out the state of Agile. I use that in many of my trainings as well as when I speak to leadership in terms of culture. So how did that happen?
All right. So what I can talk about is a little bit about CollabNet, because I think the version 1 CollabNet merger happened much later after I left CollabNet. But I think from a CollabNet's initial journey perspective, right? It's about subversion, focusing on subversion, and actually trying to help the enterprise adoption of subversion. So that was how it started, and then we eventually moved into solving the application lifecycle management part of it, like for developers. So the clear focus for that, is about like solving the fellow developers' productivity or problems, right? How do we make some of the mundane things or repetitive things easier, or how to make collaboration better, right? So those were some of the focus, and we were able to. It's very close also, right? As an engineer, as a developer,
Yep.
that you are trying to solve the problems to make your own life better. So I think it grounds you. It gives you a lot more energy also, right, to go after and solve this problem. And nothing like getting appreciated by fellow community of developers, right, saying that, hey, this thing is working and we love it, right? So that's how I would summarize.
Okay. Awesome. I think you're talking about some of the tools that I have used, and I just recently read the TOGAF's Agile Architecture Handbook, and one of the starting statements is, when something is hard and painful, we should try to do more often and not less often. He talks about doing releases more often, or doing let's say developer environment, setting it up is harder. You should automate it, and so that you can do it faster and quicker, right?
Yeah.
I think I totally relate to what you're saying in terms of making our own fellow community members cooler.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I also kind of distinctly, remember is we were trying to actually solve this, development environment problem. So we kind of came up with what is now, cloud, but we were trying to solve it like for internally for ourselves. And if we had like put much more, thought and energy into it, that would have been like something similar to like what some of the other cloud providers, leading cloud providers, are doing at this point, at this point in time, right? So to your point, Gayatri, right? It's what we were trying to do is like, it is hard, like try to do it repetitively at that to a point where you find a way to make it easier and better. And so it was fun, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How was Athena helped from you said purpose-driven or companies, and I know Athena is big on healthcare and providing medical records for companies.
Yeah.
How was the journey?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, like I said, like with CollabNet, we were trying to solve fellow developers' problem. I think, with the other company, Athena, right? And it's clear, it's making lives of the healthcare, even though it is like focused on the U.S. healthcare market. Even a team that's working out of India, is able to relate to, because healthcare is just, such a universal thing, and in one way or other, right? In your life, you would have gone through that, maybe you're close to one or whatnot. And if you're trying to solve getting care for a sick person sooner, better, faster, and efficiently, and at a cost that's affordable, I think nothing like it, right? So I think that's the problem the company was focused on. And even though, like I said, it was focused on the US healthcare market, the teams where we had a lot bigger teams in India, we were able to align the teams, around this purpose, because a lot of people were able to relate to it and empathize, right?
Yeah.
I think that is something that I look for in what I am doing, and when I'm working with the teams, however big or small, right? Even if it was a small team in CollabNet, it's a way bigger team at Athena, and it's a much smaller team at Tact, right? What I look for is like, how do we get the purpose clearly understood, and people, especially developers, right, developer community, they can empathize with the problem that we are trying to solve. If we can get that, and I think the rest is can happen automatically, in terms of solutions, right solutions kind of coming to the fore, and people actually developing them, right? And delivering them. So I think off late, like in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been focusing on transforming teams to that mindset. It's also a very interesting journey, working with your counterparts in the US or other rest of the world, and trying to make that happen, right?
Yeah, even in large enterprises, we are seeing that shift happening from a project-driven model to a product focus, right? How much ever it could be internal driven, it could be decision-making tools, or I think there is a shift, that a small shift that we are seeing in the software industries. And I'm happy to see that as a product leader, you have this passion towards the community to whom it is serving, be it medical healthcare or be it developer community. It's a very, very difficult mindset to come, because many of us come from the services companies, right? When we in 1995, when there was a boom of software services market, the product market was much smaller in India compared to the services. I think we are seeing a shift, right, in that area.
Oh, it's a big shift, right? But before I address that, I just kind of want to go back, right? I mean, if I want to again, like a little bit talk about what company that I'm currently with, Tact, is focusing on. It's about focusing on like solving the road warriors problem and leveraging like some of the edge and bringing the power of AI and edge with mobile and whatnot, right? I mean, bringing the power to the road warriors and making their life easier. And it's a very focused, clear problem that we are going after. And it is actually, even though all of these companies that I've worked on are B2B companies, and specifically, if I look at even at Tact, even though we are kind of going after B2B, in the end, we are actually a B2C. I mean, we are actually working with the end consumer in mind, and that's how our products are thought of. So that's a very interesting thing from my point of view. And again, coming back to what you were asking, I mean, I see a big shift, right? I mean, again, earlier it was just maybe doing a bunch of stuff, maybe related to QA, or maybe just related to doing some bug fixes, and even engineering teams were focusing on doing some maybe last mile work or
small maintenance work,
small maintenance work, right? Not really trade of product management. The evolution of just product managers in the last 10, 12 years, 10 years. So it's amazing, similarly with the UX capabilities, right? Product designer capabilities. It is so great to see. I mean, right now, if we have a clear purpose at a company level and a problem statement, I think the teams, we have all the ingredients to make the teams to go and solve that problem pretty effectively for global scale also. It is, and I was being fortunate enough to kind of go through this journey. I mean, there was no product manager that you could find a product manager, like I would say even 10 years back, right? But now, you find like fantastic product managers. And I mean, I think the current, the startup ecosystem right now is just testament to that, I guess. So,
yeah. So you covered multiple things in terms of, one is, even if it is a B2B, if you continue to focus on the consumer, that final consumer who's using, then the energy moves through the team as well as what is the purpose, right? I think, and the second is from a product manager, how do you skill? So how was that in terms of skilling yourself from a capability when there were very few handful of product leaders at that point in time when you started, Karthik?
So, I think it was done like maybe multiple ways. I'm stumbling a little bit, primarily because I think there are many things to talk about that.
Okay.
but I think, just in terms of, for me, again, if that problem statement is very clear, or the persona that we are going after is very clear, and you can empathize that particular problem, I think people can actually become good product managers, right? Sometimes I think when we started, came from sometimes, from developers, some developers themselves, or from a quality focused person, right? They can actually connect to that very well and naturally can step in and start becoming the product person, right?
Okay.
And then
Alright.
that was like more about execution focused when we started. But and then again, when you start to think about how do I go to market with, what's the revenue and things like that, right? When you kind of combine those things, I mean, those things evolved over time, right? Earlier,
Okay,
it was more about like what's the solution that I'm going to go after, and then then the go-to-market and other aspects that the product manager has to be thinking about. So it was a natural evolution.
Yeah. Very well put, Karthik. You covered persona, whom am I targeting? Second is who are your team members who understand end-to-end problems. Your quality team may actually know that. And then the third is what type of go-to-market strategies are we putting in place to ensure that our fitment is there, and then executing the whole thing very perfectly, right? You may have a great vision, as long as that vision he doesn't translate to features and users, a lot of then maybe other issues, problems that the organization will start facing.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about this road warriors, Karthi. That sounds extremely new and very fancy from what I see.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are solutions that are available, right, to solve the road warrior or the sales team's problems. But they are the people who are going and meeting, multiple prospects and customers, and they are the people who have to be actually giving the input on what's going to be the revenue for the company and whatnot, right? But if you look at like even some of the major, like say CRM that big enterprises adapt, the usage of that at the leaf level or at the road warrior level is actually very, very low, right? It's like less than 15-20% is the adoption, right? It's not, and also it is not done if I am the salesperson and I'm meeting with like 5-6 prospects or my customers and whatnot, and I have to be talking about where they are on their journey in terms of like converting into a customer or I'm actually going and talking to them, and I have my own notes that I have, but when I want to actually update all these information in existing CRM systems, I probably have to wait until I come back, or maybe sometimes you come back from the road, at the end of the week and then go do it. And by then, you probably lost some of the crucial pieces of context or information. So, and it becomes a check mark or a task that you are just kind of doing to go update the existing CRM systems. And that's exactly the one problem that we are trying to solve by giving them the power of clear notifications on what, before the meeting, what is that they need to be doing, and right after the meeting, giving them an opportunity to just like this golden 5 minutes is like this something that gets talked about in the sales and CRM space, where you give them like that 5 minutes right after the meeting to capture what actually happened, the essence of the meeting. We can give them that power. I think that would very, very helpful for the road warriors and salespeople. But not only that, but anybody who's actually wanting to aggregate that data and see like how the forecast look like, they probably have a much more richer data, right? Yeah.
In fact, when you were speaking, I was thinking about the same thing where Ramcharan talked about moving from pure sales to moving towards solution, and that too at the age of data, having all the data in place. You actually know what is working in this segment and giving them enough inputs for the next set of sales. Right? I think it's like a convergence of data being available as well as mobile networks becoming stronger and making them more effective. I think it's a great convergence story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to know what are your passions outside of work? Is there, what do you follow? Any books you follow? Any to keep yourself updated?
So basically one thing that I want to talk about it, obviously I do, but one thing that I want to talk about, each one is probably thing in itself, but if I want to talk about it, I'm actually very passionate about empowering youth in like maybe some rural side of things, right? That is something that I'm kind of getting into. Primarily, I come from similar background, so I think it is only the right level of energy and passion that that actually helps you become who you are later part in your life. And if you can harness that awareness in some of the rural youth, I think they have the fire. So how do we help them to realize this is something that I'm very passionate about? And I think that is something that I may want to get into full time, sometime later. But that's something that I'm very passionate about.
Wow,
Gayatri, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Karthi. See, we keep talking about paying it forward, right? Having that model of paying it forward and keeping the passion, that ensuring that we are creating that space where folks can come in and use our networks and make them that they can start building on top of it and our learning. I think that's a fantastic way to get started, empowering our future youth.
Yeah, that is one thing. And then the other one, like obviously, what kind of coming back, within work, it's about see your teams just grow. I mean, I kind of have this positive regard for everyone. Call it like universal, like positive regard. I think everybody's, once that mission of the company is understood, or, what you're trying to do is understood, I mean, I think, and have this universal positive regard as something that we can actually permeate across within the company.
Mm-hmm.
And help them realize in terms of what are the things that they can go focus on, help them, delegate and help them. I think that's something that I try to do. I think that's what I'm actually, in fact, focusing on from a work perspective for the last 2 to 3 years, right? These are little things, but it requires, if you're doing it at a large scale, enterprise level companies, it requires quite a bit of change and change management related to that. But it's also right, very, very, very fulfilling. You see a team that was just kind of doing some low cost work, or some work that just like you said, something similar to like a maintenance work, to blossom into a full blown project team is something that and that involves many things, right? I mean, but to me, it starts with your mindset, with people and people's mindset, our team and team's mindset, and then the rest of the transformation with respect to agile or how you do things comes in. So that is something that I'm focusing on. I'm very passionate about also.
Yes.
Those challenges also is the one that motivates you. So yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. In fact, Daniel Pink very rightly put, right? He talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Purpose is, we spoke about who are we, and you keep talking about purpose-driven organization. Give them the right kind of a skill so that they can move from point A to point B. Now, mastery perspective, and give them space to grow. I think you very nicely put, Karthik. Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm just realizing we are on time. Any other thoughts that you wanted to share with our listeners, Karthik?
I think each one has their journey charted out, I believe. So I think like I said, be it at work or off work, what I am actually trying to do, if I just try to crystallize that, I'm trying to see if we can create a much more openness in terms of collaboration, and also our ability for people to actually go speak up and express their viewpoints and opinions and converge on a solution and go develop, right? I mean, that may be what I'm focusing on, both in what I'm trying to do, at work and outside, with working with some of the rural folks. So, yeah.
All right. So you're saying message for our listeners is embrace your journey and create your own open and collaborative space so that innovation can spur.
Yeah,
very,
exactly.
Very coolly put. All right. Thank you so much for your time, Karthi. I really, really appreciate it.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Malavika for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
please subscribe on your favorite podcast client
and spread the word in your network.
If you'd like to share your story,
contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.